July 20, July, August 26th.
August 22nd. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Is that just the wrong date on that?
That might be just the wrong date. So hold on, let me open it up. Executive committee. Yeah, it is.
Okay, just for the record, we'll go ahead and just correct that Scrivener's error. It's August 26th. I don't want Nancy or anyone to get upset or Jan. But it is August 26th, okay? Can I then get a motion to permit Ms. Rutherford to participate by phone? Mr. Fennell and Ms. Williams, any comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That would be unanimous. Ms. Rutherford, can you hear us?
I can.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Next, we'd be at approval of the minutes. So let's take them all as one, please. Could I get a motion to approve February, March, and July minutes of the Executive Committee? Thank you, Mr. Salzer, and the second by Mr. Fennell. Are there any additions or corrections? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the minutes as prepared, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That would be unanimous then. Thank you very much. I want to welcome any or all guests today, staff, as well as elected officials. I see our treasurer. I see our sheriff. Am I missing anybody? All right. So, under informational items, Mr. Sorrell, do you want to briefly go through this, please?
Sure, happy to, Mr. Chairman. So first is Springdale Cemetery minutes. I don't have anything to specifically report out other than we continue to provide technical support for their virtual meetings. As you probably know, Member Daly is currently the chair of the Springdale Management Authority, and at her request, we've been providing some of that technical support so that they can meet virtually during this time. Second would be the monthly CDAP, gap loan, macro, other loan report that's in the packet that starts on page 11. Pretty straightforward. Julie prepared it. We have one outstanding loan right now that is from the gap loan program. That's CPO Holdings. They're current. In the CDAP fund, there's $762,000 in change available to be loaned should you choose to make loans. And then you'll see the amortization table for both Hugh Building, which is Treskers, and Hare Racing, and Quest Charter Academy. If you remember, just real quickly on Treskers, very early on in the response to COVID, they requested of both the lead lender and ourselves to go 3-month deferral and then 3 months at interest only. We're in the interest only phase now of that process. The payments we re-amortize those, and they're just tacked on to the end of the term of the loan. Otherwise, we're all good there. So happy to answer any questions about that before I move on to Headington Oaks.
Regarding the extension of the conditions in terms of the loan, was that memorialized with a handshake or an agreement?
Memorialized in an email.
Can we make sure council thinks that's adequate?
Absolutely. Well,
thank you.
You bet. Third is the Headington Oaks financials that are in your packet. They'll start on page 17. Ms. Williams did not have a committee meeting this week, so this committee, we did distribute the materials, but this committee is really the first committee that's seeing it. As you all know, we have 0 residents at this point in time. The revenues and the expenditures are significantly less than what was budgeted as a result of winding down the operation. My expectation that Ms. Williams will have for her committee when they next meet a month from now some recommendations on how we're going to execute a strategy on long-term collections and the outstanding accounts receivable that we have. And that should come forward to her committee as an action item for you to consider.
Thank you, Mr. Sorrell. Any questions or comments? Mr. Sorrell, in the auditor's report through 2019, fiscal year 2019, would
Yes.
the AR balance here been validated and thus reflects any write-downs or adjustments from 2019 in this net valuation?
So the accounts receivable does reflect any write-downs that the board did approve as of June 30th of this year, so that would include any that we did that you approved in 2019 as well. I believe you did one in mid-year 2019, but we have not done any since. So those were reflected in the audited financials for year end 12/31 of 19, and then these account receivables then are obviously reflective of that action you took roughly a year ago.
Thank you. Madam Williams, perhaps your committee could schedule a conversation about how we would go forward with a professional effort to collect the remainder of the AR on balance here, which would fill in the hole in that fund, which is negative today, if even at 50% is 3.55 million. So while I believe all this stuff is booked net, not gross, this valuation suggests to me that there should still be some ongoing cash flow of some significance, and I'd like to know how we professionally will go get it. Thank you. Any other questions then for Mr. Sorrell? All right. I'm not going to hurry anybody. I have another item at 4 o'clock I generally don't go to because of this meeting, but I promised I'd be there today. So if I have to dash, would y'all mind Mr. Fennell finishing out? Yeah, I didn't think so. Thanks, Jim. So starting with the public safety. Chairperson, hey, Mr. Renaud. Oh, you're county ops, but who's the vice on public safety? Okay, that's what I thought. I don't think Paul's on the phone. I think just Mr. Relaford.
Okay. It was pretty easy. We had 2 resolutions, both dealt with the sheriff's department. One was getting a new Bearcat, which is the armored vehicle. And the second one was just accepting the appropriation from, what is it here? Oh, it's for overtime. So it was a grant that we received.
Is that related to DUI enforcement? The ILEAS overtime grant, is that related to DUI enforcement?
More tactical training.
Thank you. And this device, Brian, Sheriff, a Lenco Bearcat, do we have one of those?
Back in 2006
Gotcha. So does that device have cameras and recording devices capable of being deployed for neighborhood nuisance issues?
No, it does not have the cameras. It does have different portals where you could possibly have a camera, but the one that's being presented does not.
Thank you. Thank you for the update. Thank you, Mr. Renaud. Any comments for the vice chairperson of the committee? Hearing none, Mr. Renaud.
In operations, we had one resolution. It was the IMRF benefit protection leave. Essentially, this is a blanket that allows for more efficient processing of requests of employees who have been off for more than 30 days and want to buy back that service credit. In the past, they were just done on a case-by-case basis, but because of the furloughs that have been taken, there are more requests now. So this will just make it more efficient for us to process those.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any comments? Shauna, did you raise your hand? Mr. Salzer. Hi, Phil.
Mr. Chairman, we had one resolution, and this had to do, of course, with the repair work that we were doing out there at the Alpha Park Library's wall, and ICCI was the contractor on this, and I think the original bid that they that they gave to us was around $150,000. But once they got into it, they ran into a problem with the wiring, and so they had to do some wiring work. And so Amy came to us and asked us to if she could do use the motor fuel tax, and this was able to be approved by our committee, and so this is a resolution that this deals with.
Thank you. Any comments or questions for Mr. Salzer? Thank you, Mr. Salzer. Seeing none, Father Land Use.
Nice mess, Chairman.
I know I got this from the kid.
The one resolution, demolition asbestos for house on Powder Mill Road, goes all the way back to 2017, but the contractor agreed to honor that bid from 2017, so it's $10,800 to knock this house down. The reason it's from a federal grant. The reason it took this long was because this is a 22-acre property, and they had to agree to a fair settlement for the property. So what this does now is adds more farm ground into the county's stock for lease agreements later on. So we would have farm ground to lease out again, or use for. Can't you build anything on it or do whatever on it, but farm ground. That's it.
Thank you. So we will own this, is that what you're saying?
This is part of that Edwards settlement of floodplain buyouts from a few years ago, where we acquired like 20 properties through a federal grant to knock all those houses down.
Thank you.
This is the last property. This is the last one that they couldn't come. We just finally came to an agreement on because it's 22 acres and it had a house on it. So, does it have an outbuilding? I don't remember. I think it's just a house, but basically 22 acres of some tillable and I think some woods on it and a house. But that on Powder Mill Lane, it floods. So the guy had 22 acres. He thought trying to agree on a price was a little bit more difficult. So they finally agreed on a fair price that the government was okay with. If that makes sense. Fair market.
Thank you, Mr. Ricker.
Can I ask one more quick
Sure,
question,
please.
Mr. Chairman? Just for an education, so these properties, you say 25? How many did we acquire from this federal grant?
It was 20 plus, I think. It's in the.
It doesn't matter
Right.
exactly. I guess my question is more around, so title ownership, does the county now own all of those properties, and what do we do with these properties? You mentioned that this one had some farm ground that we could maybe generate some revenue from, but is there a longer term, or are we just the happy owners of property?
Right. So this is a program. This round of grant funding is the most recent one, but this is a program that we've been participating in since the mid '80s. mostly along the Illinois River, or along Farmington Road in West Peoria, and now in the Edwards area as a result of the flood in 2013. Yes, we do own full title to the properties. It can, based on the grant agreement from which we get the source of funds, it can only be used for open space going forward. Obviously, farm ground can continue to be farmed. Along the Illinois River, in many cases, we have, through intergovernmental agreement, deeded properties to either Chillicothe Township or the Chillicothe Park District for them to use for recreational spaces or just passive open space. The purpose of the program is when you have a structure that is in a floodplain or sometimes even in the floodway, and there are repetitive losses to that property, all of us as U.S. taxpayers then spend the burden because the flood insurance is a federally funded program, and so the goal is to reduce that federal burden and is used across the country. The dollars are federal dollars, normally administered by a state agency. Like I said, we've been doing this throughout the various portions of the county since the mid-1980s. So, and we own, dozens of properties in those three areas that I explained.
It's a fair question about what's on the books in our portfolio and what utility it has. Sure. I was also wondering if the sheriff, who has need for range training as well as professional training, might need a piece of property as well that could be improved over time to meet the department's range safety needs.
Yeah, one of the main, like Scott said, that they turned it over to Chillicothe, some of the river ones. So on Farmington Road next to the racetrack falls in a floodplain too, but the property next to it used to be a mini golf course and a driving range. That property was acquired under the same grants, and then that has been turned over to the city of West Peoria. So there's some down on those roads down off Farmington that were acquired onto this. It's 15 properties total on just that list. But Powder Mill Road is basically like if you were going to take a left at Wildlife Prairie Park, you take a right, and the old Edwards was right there. This pretty much wipes out the whole entire old town of Old Edwards that was sitting there with houses, other than that old school that Massey Roofing has down there. So, I mean, I think there is a ongoing cost. We can never get rid of these properties once they've been acquired under this grant. They for perpetual.
We can only transfer them to another unit of local government, and they can only be used for open space or recreational purposes.
So we would have some ongoing future maintenance costs of, I don't know how often, but if we cut grass or whatever we do with them.
Or repurpose them, as the chairman mentioned, for other use of our own use, or make it public space or park space, similar to what you mentioned for Chillicothe. But again, I don't get too hung up in it. Just don't want to lose sight that we have property now that, will probably cost us money to maintain. It's not on the tax rolls. And can we do something productive with it, with the community's property?
Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Dillon? All right, hearing none, then I will go to Mr. Ricker, who just finished with Ways and Means.
All right, we had 3 resolutions. The first one was the standard, drawing a blank. It's not on this docket. The tax sale ones that did pass. Thank you. And then the second one was refund of raffle license fee. So the county clerk brought forward that we had some raffle licenses that were purchased early in the year before the pandemic. They were not able to run their raffle, so requesting their fee back. It's like $30 a fee, so it's not huge. We're not able to take it over to another calendar year, so we approved refunding those to those organizations that purchased those licenses. And the last one was the Property Assessed Clean Energy Program. It's a program that provides assistance, financial assistance for lower rate loans for businesses, commercial properties, if they want to upgrade or improve their property with a clean energy, and there's several caveats and provision, solar, water, wind, things that they would do to improve. This would provide a opportunity, another funding source at a lower interest rate to those businesses. And so we approved to pursue an administrator that would administrate that program on behalf of the county. So that was the third item. Any questions?
Seeing none. Ms. Relaford, I don't see you. Are you good?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Okay, so did the health cancel this week? Yeah. Okay. And budget canceled. All right, we'd be at miscellaneous. Looking around the room. Miscellaneous.
Chairman, good to see you back behind the seat, and sorry for your family's loss.
Thank you very, very much. I owe everybody in the room a note, believe me, so thank you. Anyone else? All right, well, I appreciate everyone's notes and messages to me since my mom passed away last week, and I will follow up with thank you notes to all of you as well. She passed peacefully, and I certainly know she's in a better place, so with that, we'll be adjourned.